Hi guys, welcome back to another Impact and Influence interview today. Excuse my voice, I'm not practicing 0055 numbers, but I have been having COVID the last week. And today I have with me Richard Harding, who is an industry legend, and I'm incredibly grateful that Richard's given us his time today. Richard's one of my longtime mentors, and I'm grateful for the impact and influence Richard's had on my life and my career. Morning, Richard, how are you?
Morning, Kylie. I'm very well, thank you.
Thanks so much for agreeing to this interview. How many of these do you do?
I don't do any interviews, Kylie. I did it just for you, and I don't say that. I get asked a lot, but I do. You were persistent, so I did.
I was persistent. The name of the game, right?
Happy to
don't ask or keep asking, you don't get.
Exactly.
Richard, seriously, I was persistent with you because I followed your career and had the pleasure of, when I was at another corporate organisation, working with you and your team quite a bit, and it did have a profound impact, and I mean that sincerely. And I would like to share with the industry some of your learnings, some of your insights. And I guess if we start back in your career, early 80s, mid 80s, Richard, into real estate.
Yeah, left school 85, started in real estate a year later.
Always in Sydney, Richard?
No, I started, which is 35 years ago-ish, in Coffs Harbour. I went to school in Sydney, went back to Coffs Harbour, and I did 4 to 5 years in Coffs Harbour, and then decided to live in London for a year, and then came to Sydney.
Yeah, and always in the resi sector, because that's where you sort of started, and that's evolved, obviously.
Always just listing and selling residential. That's my passion.
And I love how you evolved the business over the years, and the team and the partners that you work with. You're always innovating. And I would call you an entrepreneur in industry, not a director, great leader, but not just like a real estate principal. I've always thought of you as an entrepreneur. How have you kept that energy, and what's driven you to do that?
Before we go much further, I've got to say, you've got to stop trying to pump my tyres up, because it's not me at all.
I know it's not you.
And so I'm not a legend. I'm not an industry leader. I just do what we do here in the business. But I do feel it's been a lot of energy over many, many years to where we're at. And I've been super lucky to be able to be working with the people that I actually work with, and who I'm attached with within our business and our network. So it's been a great career so far.
So, Mr. Modesty, let's take it down then. Your partners in the business.
Yes.
You've had a great long partnership with the guys that you're in business with. Why has that been so successful?
My Jeff Smith and myself sort of started the business 23 odd years ago. We were not only close mates at the time, we've grown into long term friendship of what we do and how we look after each other. Along that way, 22 years ago, Bernard Ryan started with us. Bernard started with me in my team, and he's now a director of the company 22 years later, or 12 years ago. And we've been really lucky, but along the way, we've also started numerous other businesses, and there's lots of partnerships now. There's lots of leadership growth, and we tend to have open, more robust conversations, but we all tend to be part of the one family, and we cherish that side of what we do. And guys like Scott Stevens, Tim Abbott, Dave Gillen, Anthony Cowie, there's Matt Clayton. There's a lot of guys now who are all part of the leadership team. And I also would say there's a number of others that are not directors or shareholders of the company, but are passionate about our business, who are our leaders as well. So we do a lot of work around that area in our business to keep everyone together, collaborate together and work together within the business to support each other.
So that loyalty of having each other's back, how do you create, or how over your leadership journey, what are the things that have worked for you and haven't worked for you in relation to keeping the team tight and that collaboration? Because it's not always easy, right?
We have our values on one side, and I think values are one thing, but we also have what we call our beliefs in the business itself. And I think our beliefs, our first and foremost belief is with the whole team, not just our leadership team, but the whole team revolves around family. So we all look after one another. Our second side of that is the building of careers within the business and how our business will evolve around successful careers and the health of our team. And our third real belief is around charity. How do we give back as what we do within our business? And an example of that is next month, or on the 3rd of April, I think it is, we do an event every year, which we've done now for 14, 15 years, which is a 2K swim, 15K walk, 5K run, 3K paddle, around Manly and back into Clontarf. And we've got 43 of the team doing that this year. But the flip of that is we generally raise between $30,000 and $40,000 a year as well for the charity that we do all of that for.
That's incredible collaboration. I've noticed that exercise and wellbeing thing for you guys over the last 15 years has had a real impact. Like you've always been quite good with your exercise and your fitness. How do you encourage that within the team?
I think it also that sort of comes from leadership, because Jeff and I are into our fitness, and I believe you've got to be fit and healthy to be able to work at levels for 6 days a week and go through the ups and downs of what the real estate industry throws at you. So being fit and healthy, eating right, we do party well. We do celebrate success well, I believe, but we are, on the flip of that, we do try and stay fit, and that goes through our team because there's always talk about it. And some of the players in our team, Anthony Cowie's just a lunatic. He just does stupid things, but he's always talking about different things. So there's a lot of support in that.
Yeah, is he still doing his marathons?
Marathons, he does, just things that I would never dream of doing. And I don't know how he gets the time to do them, but yeah.
But I think it shows that 360 holistic approach to leadership. And as you said, one of those key pillars being mentally fit and physically fit is so incredibly important. And that's really evolved, I've seen, in the industry. And I'm really proud of what the industry's done in the last 18 months or 2 years with COVID. And you and I were talking recently about the effect of COVID and the fatigue to industry. How did you see COVID playing out, and what did you see the impacts on your team?
I think there was two sides of COVID. I think a lot of people made an enormous amount of money, and I don't think anyone could look back and say the last 2 years has been bad for our industry. I think COVID saved businesses, but also really did pump up a lot of businesses in where they're at. So from the financial side, COVID has been very good to the market and to the real estate business. I think the downside of that is it was a long, hard struggle. There was a lot of head damage. And I sort of feel this year is a little bit of the hangover of the last 2 years, where we've started a little bit slow, or our business has, where we couldn't just keep pushing. We couldn't keep the teams running at the levels where they were running at. And I sort of feel people went away for Christmas and have come back, and they just haven't had the break that I wanted them to have. And I encouraged as many people in our business to take a full month off from mid-December to mid-January. Whether that's the right thing or the wrong thing, I just felt our teams needed some serious relaxation and area of where we can actually get them back in. And I just feel like across the industry, there's probably a lot of very tired people.
And I love what you just said, whether it's right or wrong. For our team, it was right. And I think so many times we go to these real estate conferences and we look at all these things and we unpack it and we take it back to our office, and it's not right for our team. You know what's right for your team. So I think that's great leadership, what you did over that period. But yeah, a lot of people took leave, right, and got COVID, or the kids got COVID. So they didn't actually get that break.
I think that probably segues into another just little conversation we're having. Whether it's right or wrong for your team is really what the leader in the team sees and has that discussion with the leadership team. There's some businesses don't have full leadership teams, but it's an interesting thing right now. There's a lot of different models within the real estate industry, and I've looked in the last 5 years at a lot of different models, how people do things, how agents do things, and everyone has really good parts of their business, but you can't go and steal someone else's model and go, I just want to do that, because it crashes your whole culture and the team doesn't understand it. You have to build your own model. You have to build your own culture. Everyone goes, we've got Unreal culture. I'm not sure what that actually means, but it's something where you've got to be able to build that into how your team reacts, what your team wants to do and where your team wants to go. And that comes down to, I suppose, leadership and the respect of the leaders within the business.
Absolutely. And I think, that leadership is all about trust, and people follow even out of curiosity, if nothing else. When you say, what does culture mean? I think it's that faith and trust they've got in the leadership team. But I see it all the time. I go into businesses and people are like, well, we saw this at a conference, so we unpacked this. And usually it's not implemented or executed well, or someone comes back and has a brain explosion, shoots it off, and then we find out all the ripple problems later. So I think it's incredibly important.
I think that's one of the most interesting things that salespeople do. We love to buy that product. So that's the product that's going to work for us. So we've got to do exactly what those people are doing, with no thought to how they're going to implement, how they're going to do it, and how they're going to set it for success. I think in a lot of cases, people go, let's just fire it in, or leaders say, let's just fire it into the business. And there's no under thought around, how are my people going to react to that? What are my teams going to actually do in this? And then 3 months later, pull that out, and you start to lose the team. Didn't work. Not my fault. Your fault. So, but the thought's not there, or the preparation.
Absolutely. And I love how you said for your team. I always say to clients, consider what it's going to impact for the internal customer and the external customer. But yeah, we all think there's a magic bullet. And talking about that magic bullet and consistency, Richard, I'd have to say that your brand there and leadership has got a reputation for consistency, I guess, because I've had the privilege of working inside your business as well. What are the things that you've done consistently that have made a difference to your business?
I think just consistency is one of the most important sides. Our energy every day, our business, and I'd like to, I'll put it on the record. Much prefer to be on the record, but I think our business has changed dramatically in the last 5 years. Jeff and I have always just been sales guys, and a lot of people build sales businesses that have other businesses bolted on, like, let's call it property management. We have no care, we have no respect, we just don't do anything, and it's a revolving door. I think in the last 5 years, I've actually re-educated myself to where I wanted to take the business with the team. And I think that's where our business is heading, that I can now focus on all the different businesses that we run. And we've got about 8 businesses that we run currently, or 8 revenue streams. And we P&L all of those revenue streams, but we actually are across what each business is doing. And as the leaders, we do a lot of external training, but we also do a lot of reading. We re-educated ourselves. I feel like I've done a full university degree in the last 5 years in trying to understand more about where we're going and what we're doing.
That continual evolution.
I think standing still today is very dangerous. I don't. 30 odd years ago, I worked for a gentleman who was very, very successful in real estate. And he always said, and I've always remembered this, he said, real estate's like a sailing race. You just sail out and follow the leaders, and you tack when they tack, and then you tack back when they tack back, and you just keep following them and you can make money. Whereas I've always looked at that and said, I always want to challenge the norm. I want to challenge how we would do something. And if the whole industry is doing one thing, we tend to do something different. And we tend to look at it, research it, and try and say, yeah, let's see whether we can do something different. So we've never been a follower. We've always I'm not saying we're leading the business. We just are within our own little environment of what we do.
And I think so many times this industry thinks you have to be first. And I always have had the ethos, you don't have to be first, you just have to be different and offer value to the customer. And I think that customer, again, internal, external.
Since, I feel an old man saying this, but since 1986, the real estate industry hasn't changed dramatically. 5, 6, 7 years ago, I went to a couple of conferences which all they talked about was our Uber moment and our disruptions coming. I'm still sitting here going, right, bring it on. Where is it?
Yeah.
But everyone talks at a conference about this is going to destroy you and if you don't change right now. But technically, we prospect, we list, we manage the process of marketing, we negotiate, we sell. It doesn't I think real estate gets really overcomplicated in a really simple business.
Yep, then you can't see the trees for the forest. And you just touched on marketing. And one of the things you guys do incredibly well is marketing. Your business has sold some of the best homes in Australasia. What's been the most successful marketing concept or initiative that you think you've had or that you've got good ROI on?
I think probably one of our biggest points of difference, which I just love, we started 22 years ago doing in-room auctions in the suburb. Everyone did in-room auctions in the city. We brought it back and we did it at Taronga Zoo. And all the agents go out there and sell against us, which I reckon is unreal. Because then the owners actually ask us the question, well, why do you do it in rooms? And every business goes, we do it on site because it's emotional. I just know how to sell against that. And that was one thing, still 22 years down the track, on the busiest day of the week, a Saturday, we just didn't have time to do auctions.
No.
Yep. We
Yep.
did it on a Thursday night, and we now have our own purpose-built auction room in our office that seats 120 people because that's our core business.
It's an incredible vibe too, your auctions, an incredible vibe and the energy that comes out of it.
And again, our industry just keeps going, well, you've got to do it on site because people are going to turn up and pay more money. It's emotional. I'm like, gee, we've been brainwashed well because that's what everyone's been told. But that's one thing that we've done. We've always done magazines. Everything's around how to list and sell. What makes it the best way for our teams?
Having sat in some pretty robust marketing meetings with you over the years, Richard, one thing that came through for me was again, knowing your customer and your demographic and how they wanted the information for them and very much, the look and the feel. So you just talked about magazines and, the conversation around passive buyers and knowing around that emotion who will pay more. So important to have that marketing mix. And you guys seem to really get that. How important has that been, do you think, to the growth of your market share and your footprint across the Lower North Shore?
Enormous. Through all the different things that we do, whether it's print, whether it's, I'm not quite the social media animal that everyone is today. I did get onto Instagram because my 16-year-old son, who's now 18, told me that I needed to get into the future. And I do have an Instagram page, which I've now got, I think, 8 followers, which is really good.
I'll have to jump on that, Richard. I did not know that.
I promise you, and it's not, it's had one photo that someone stole my phone and posted something on it. But it's not, I think I'm more along the lines I'm not against any of it. I'm not, and I can see where it works for some and it doesn't work for others. But again, I think we lose focus on what's important, and that's a relationship to build, face-to-face contact, doing what you can do. Marketing frustrates me a lot. I'm not me personally. I just see it and I go, how do I do it better? What do I need to do to inject into that to get the response? But I did listen at a John McGrath conference, 2014, Noosa Heads. The guy, one of the AFL coaches, Kevin Sheedy, said, generally the business is already within the business. And we all go outside of the business
Correct.
to find new business, but we don't look after the business that's already here. So
the filing cabinet, look after the filing cabinet.
From 2014, I've been inside the business, not outside the business. So we do a lot of that within the business now.
So incredibly important, isn't it? Like an agent will send out an EDM or something to the database and then go out and letterbox drop or door knock. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. Who's opened it? How about we ring them first before we go and knock on you?
If we are doing anything like that now, we're a lot more sophisticated on how we do that now, and I'm sort of very happy with, not me, but I've got a super talented marketing person who does a great job and always challenges me on different things, and I really like that. I get frustrated sometimes, but I do like it that challenge is there and how we do that better.
Just making some notes of some things that you've said. I think also to the social media thing, Richard, is understanding where you are in your career. Like, yes. Obviously you've had a hugely successful career and your lead agents have.
It's still going.
And I think understanding, what you're trying to do with your brand as well, rather than, I see agents getting caught up and spending so much time on social media. Fine, depending on where you are with your career and what the strategy is for that. But often there's no strategy and it's just posting what I would call spam and nothing that's value to your client or positioning you as an agent that specializes in X, Y, and Z. Richard, who's been your biggest influencer in your career, or what have been the tips and tricks that you've learned along the way that have had an impact?
I've worked with a lot of different guys. In the early days, I really, there's a guy that works in Sydney that I only spoke to last week who was my sales manager. Really great guy, always challenged me as well. In those days, I was learning how not to do things or how to do things, how people did things badly in real estate. I think today, probably the most influential is that and I don't want to be cliched in this, but Jeff and I have worked so well together as a team that we've both probably influenced each other's careers to be there and be part of that. So we still, every deal, if Jeff's doing a deal, he comes to me and I do deal support. If I'm doing a deal, I go to him. We still do deal support on every deal. We're not bigger than the game to do that. But then I think now Bernard Ryan's been there with me for a long, long time. There's parts of my team Nicole, who's been with me for 16 odd years. There's a lot of my team now who are influencers to me to continue to do what I do. And I see people like, who I've mentioned, Anthony Cowie, Dave Gillen, Tim Abbott, Scott Stevens, Matty. We all influence each other now. So it's not one person out there going, he just changed the direction. I think in our business, it's everyone that's here, and right down to I start new people now, and my job now is to build their career, and I've got a couple people right now that I just see a real opportunity to grow their careers and how I can influence what they're doing, and that's what I really work on now. I was blessed enough to sell for 30 years, and I was bored. I'd worked at a high level for a long, long time, and I turned 50 and I went, you know what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to be every Saturday. I don't need to do that. Ego's gone, just got to get back. So the last 5 years has been around giving back to the people who are in the team and working with them and challenging them to what they can actually do.
Richard, giving back and contributing to their professional development and growing them, how important or how much impact has that had on your retention and or recruitment in the last couple of years?
I think many years ago there was a lot of businesses that their only model was, how do I go out and poach everyone? I always said there's a great book. The White family does a lot with Harvard Business School, and I go every year to a Harvard course in my growth of me. And the guy who's head of Harvard Business School, Boris Gavinsky, wrote a book saying Chasing Stars. And if any business leader hasn't read that and you're going out there and just poaching people, I think you've got to grow your own team. You've got to have the DNA stamped on their forehead from a young age and taking them through where they're at. And if you get it wrong, they leave you. You don't leave them. So that's part of what my job is today, is focusing with the team, but I do lots of other things as well. So I'm not just stuck in residential sales.
It's interesting the amount of focus in our industry on recruitment, when, as you say, around retention and growing our existing people and looking at people's key drivers in their business. What would happen if, conversion for appraised to list went up 20 or 30% in your office? What would happen if everyone's listing presentation went from 6 to 10 to 9 out of 10? But we focus so much on recruitment and the energy that goes into it. So I think for me, that's probably the point that you've put forward in this interview that resonates the most. I'm mindful and respectful of your time, Richard. I have two more questions, if I may.
Yeah, no, you're right.
What would you tell a younger version of yourself?
I wasn't a prospector. I was a relationship agent. And I think there's a difference. Again, we go to a lot of conferences where go and poach. As a leader, you've got to have 50 of those salespeople around you and just go and get them, because that's good for business. But that ruins your culture, I think. But again, I'm not saying it's wrong or right. Everyone has their own journey and their own way through. For me, I wish I prospected more, but I was lucky that I always had listings. I was lucky that I had really good people around me to get me through where I was at different times. So I was more, I could meet people, I could talk to them, and I could build trust very easily, and I didn't have to go and ring 20 people a day, as much as I might say to my guys, it's changed. It's a different industry now. But I'm pretty happy with my career. I'm not here to change. I'm here to say, well, I turned up every day, and that's all I ask my team to do today is not do what I did, but just be there, be in the present, work it. And you're not going to change hard work. There's a lot of guys who have silver or golden bullets that are going to retire tomorrow. I haven't worked that one out yet.
Watch this space, Richard.
I'm enjoying life more now. I definitely do.
You definitely seem to have balance. I mean, this life balance thing, tell me when someone gets that right and I'll buy the book, but you seem to have balance.
I think you got to do a lot of head thinking yourself and spend time yourself. When I train, I think a lot about where my life is, what's important to my wife and myself now, what's important to our kids, how, I can't sort of sit at the office going, it's all about family. And my family, I've got 3 boys who are all now finished school. 2 have finished university, but they'll still come home. They'll still want to do things. They'll still want to sit on the couch with us. And I've just booked a holiday for Easter, and they're the first ones in because we all go and play golf. So, yeah, as much as I like free holidays.
And I think that's an important point is time is a choice. And we decide on where we prioritize our time, not somebody else. So when people say, I don't have time, well, hang on a second, you run your calendar. So where you're prioritizing things is your choice. And I think what you've just said is a good example of that.
Yeah, running your own calendar. For many years, I had assistants and things. I run this business and do a lot of different things, and I still don't have an assistant. I really love one, but I'm just not sure how to do that. So, and I'm not a control freak.
That's a whole other workshop, Richard.
Yeah, but again, I run my calendar. I had a call from McCulloch last night. He said, "Who do I talk to about getting times in your diary?" I said, "Me. Just talk to me. Send me an email. I'll put it in, and we'll do it."
Don't overcomplicate it. So, Richard, I just want to summarize and close off. I mean, there's so much out of today. Thank you so much. I did say to you 10 minutes and half an hour later. So I think
it's good to catch up with you, though, Walsh.
It is great to catch up. We're overdue. So that innovation and changing in the business, your tribe, how much of an impact that has on everything in your life, innovation, but don't overcomplicate it.
I think so. I think business is really simple, and we need to stay on that simple track. And I think the other thing, we mentioned the word a lot, leadership. I challenge everyone right down to my receptionist to be a leader, to strive for leadership, to strive for innovation within the business, how we do our marketing, to actually challenge what we do and to step up. And everyone in our business is asked to be a leader.
And I love how you said with the challenging, it's important to ask for feedback and take it on board as well. And I love that you've created that culture in the business where people can do that. And that's obviously had an impact. Richard, your legacy, I didn't ask you this in preparing, and I know that you wouldn't have done much prep anyway, but what would you like your legacy to be?
I don't know. I worked hard.
Yeah.
I did my best. That's all I can do.
Couldn't ask for any more. Richard Harding, thanks so much for your time today. We're very, very grateful.
Thanks, Kylie. All good. Thank you.